Welcome to QI, where tonight we are absolutely ravenous for the rich repository of recipes that is the QI restaurant. And joining me tonight are a rack of rib ticklers rolling a rhubarb roulade. It's Sara Pascoe. Reducing a recherché ragout. It's Mark Watson. Relishing his remarkable relish, it's Phill Jupitus. And reheating a reduced ready meal, it's Alan Davis. Right, let's hear their buzzers. Mark goes.
Yes, chef.
Ah, very good. Sara goes.
Right away, chef.
Phill goes.
Making it now, chef.
And Alan goes.
Sorry, chef.
Why would you want to eat in a restaurant with a heavy fork and nothing fresh on the menu?
Okay. Right away, chef.
Is it because you're in space?
The great restaurant in space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know that much about space or restaurants.
Clearly.
But if there was one, then the heavy fork would stop it floating away.
Doesn't really work that with gravity.
No.
There either is gravity or there isn't.
Yeah.
If the people are floating away, the fork's not going to be stable. Your sprouts are going to be all over while you can't lift your fork.
No sprouts. This is just like the toothpaste that restaurants have.
So what do you need the fork for?
To open the toothpaste.
It's like somebody direct from NASA. Mark, what do you reckon?
I think the space thing sounded quite plausible.
You like that,
actually.
do you think?
Yeah, because in space you can't have anything fresh, can
Okay.
you?
They grow things in space,
It's
don't
nothing
they?
to do with space! Phill, help me out.
I'd love to help you out.
Go on then.
So, are we talking about, like, game?
Is it a fork or
Yes,
is it
it
another...
isn't- it
it's
isn't
not a
eating
fork
with-
in the road?
Is it to do with space? I've had some very difficult TV appearances, but my classes normally do stay on.
She starts throwing the hat around, you know you're in trouble, Mark Watson.
OK, none of this is working. There is a computer scientist, his name is Dan Jarafsky, and he looked at the description of dishes on 6,500 menus. And the higher-end restaurants, they tend not to describe food as fresh. They don't describe it as tasty, they don't describe it as ripe, because the customers in the high-end restaurants expect it to be those things. In fact, in posh restaurants, they tend to use kind of sexy terminology. So if food is sort of sensuous or silky, they use language like that.
Nude.
Yeah. Nude, yeah. Care for a nude aubergine.
We got a topless chicken and we put it under the grill. Ooh, that's a bit naughty.
This sandwich will wank you off.
That's too sexy.
Yes. We've all thought it. We've all thought it.
What's wrong with you? No! OK, moving on. In posh restaurants, they use a completely different language. And here is the bizarre thing. People enjoy their food more with heavy cutlery. So there's a guy called Charles Michel, and he is the chef in residence at Oxford University's Cross-Modal Research Laboratory. So what they are researching is how our different senses modulate any appreciation of flavour. And so he gave everybody exactly the same meal. And people who used heavy cutlery were willing to pay 15% more for their food. It is one of the most bizarre things.
Yeah. Was there any point when the fork became too heavy? Because I reckon there is that is a scale that actually, by the time you've got like a garden fork, people are then refusing to pay again.
What you might have done now inadvertently is inspired cheap restaurants to glue their forks to the table to give the illusion.
Or glue 2 forks together, thereby doubling the weight.
Yeah.
One of the ways that restaurants trick you into spending a bit more money, did anybody know?
Hypnotism.
What?
Hypnotism.
Hypnotism.
Would you like the veal?
I mean, I would. I'd certainly order it after
Absolutely,
No, one of the things they do is they remove the pound sign from menus.
Oh, yeah.
So they did a study at Cornell University, and if it just has the numbers, somehow we don't associate that with the true cost of something.
You think it might just be 2.4 ants or something?
Our brain kind of doesn't turn that into dollars or pounds. If you put $20, then you suddenly think about the price, but if you just have the number, subconsciously, we don't think about the cost of things. Has anybody ever been to a restaurant with a ladies' menu?
A ladies' menu?
A ladies' menu.
I've never been into the ladies in a restaurant. Are they doing food in there? Because I'm going to start dragging up to go to restaurants. I just use the powder room now.
Yeah. Ladies' menu, anybody?
Ladies' menu?
No. So it's a menu with no prices on whatsoever. And,
Because the bitch ain't paying?
Because...
Oh, my God! I can't bear it! No! Is that what that is?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It was that the boy was paying for it, yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. Are you shocked?
I'm really shocked.
But...
Men should have a revolution. You should say something.
It is about time.
That's why men say, why don't you just have 2 starters then?
Now, what's the worst trouble you can get into with one of these? Right, would you like a bread roll?
Please.
Catch. Would you like one? Catch. Oh, I'm doing rather well, yeah.
Thanks, Mum.
OK. You look like the boy who was crap
Well,
at
it's just if the
catching.
glasses come off a second time, it starts to...
Hey, there we go.
Don't
right.
cut that. I'm better than that.
The worst trouble you can get into with one of these.
I'd say you can get into a bit of trouble if you painted it black, wrote bomb on it, and then went to an airport.
Yeah, if you murdered a man with it,
Yeah.
or woman, or anyone, that would get you in trouble.
How would you murder somebody with a bread roll?
Gluten intolerant.
So throughout history, the people who make the bread rolls, the bakers, have been punished severely if they lower the quality of their produce. So it is the bakers who can get into the most trouble. So bread has always been a staple food. I mean, we've probably, as human beings, been eating bread for about 30,000 years. If they can't afford it or it's not available, there have been riots and...
French Revolution.
French Revolution, indeed, started by the women in the market over the price of bread. So one way in which to control...
Should have given them the women's menu. Saved a lot of trouble.
We'll just order loads of bread and I assume the price is fine.
Yes, absolutely. One of the ways in which you can control it, and indeed the bakers, is to form guilds. So one of the earliest ones that we know about is the Collegium Pistorum, which was formed in Rome. We're talking about 168 BC. I mean, a very, very long time ago. And it gave special privileges to bakers and families.
Sorry, guilds.
Guilds?
I thought you said gills, like fish head.
Guilds?
Yeah, it's much more difficult to form gills, I think. You sort of either have them or you don't, really.
When do they put the seeds on? Do they do it before it goes in the oven or just when it's out?
They do it one at a time from the other side of the room. It's a great skill.
I like when you've had it, there's still seeds left and you just...
So what we're saying is you're a messy eater.
I wasn't given a plate, Sam.
You never are. Some really posh restaurants, they just put the roll in front of you and you start looking for a side plate.
Why do they offer you from a basket? Which bread would you like?
Yeah, I know.
I'll have the
I like
nicest
that.
one, please. Which is the nicest one?
No, but also, you can ask for more than one and they don't say no.
I'll say, yeah, I'll have all of those.
Yeah.
I've not touched mine because I've got a fear that it'll turn out to be someone else's bread roll, because that often happens at dinner, doesn't it?
Oh.
It turns out it's the one on the left who's meant to be the one you eat.
yeah.
Stuff like that.
OK, there's a really easy rule for me to be able to work this out. So, under the table, if you make this sign like this one, when you look at it, forms a B, and this one forms a D. The bread that is
this is
yours is
where
on
she
this
wanked
side,
you
and the
off.
drink is on this side.
I'm not looking talking.
Sitting next to Alan is like sitting next to a naughty boy at school. It's because you were doing this, like, really in a wanky way.
Poor Sandy, she's so multifaceted, but this is one skill that she has never developed.
Well, that's really valuable to me.
Yes.
I never knew that.
Anybody know what baker's dozen is?
13.
13, isn't it?
Yeah. So in medieval Britain, the law, they were forced to sell bread by the weight rather than the price of each loaf. And if you undersold anybody, you got into terrible trouble. So they got into the habit of making a 13th loaf just to make sure that the total weight not
So
too
they've had
low.
a hard time, the bakers, with everyone putting rules in.
I mean, lots of rules. I mean, the Romans, they wanted to make sure that bakers were saved from vice, so they were forbidden by law from hanging out with gladiators or comedians.
Quite right, yeah.
What about Eureka Johnson?
She's a grey area.
And there were lots of laws in medieval times. So in the 13th century, the very first time you were caught adulterating your bread, you were dragged on a hurdle through the streets with the bad loaf hanging around your neck. The second time, if it happened, you had your hands and your head locked in a wooden pillory, and again, you were dragged through the streets. The third time, it was not so good. You were dragged through the streets, your oven was dismantled, you were forced to swear that you would never practice the trade of baking.
It slightly lost me at the word adulterating.
Yeah, adulterating your bread, it means sleeping with bread that you're not married to.
Yeah.
Why would you keep doing that?
In France, they were equally heavy-handed. One of the punishments for bakers was that you had to wear a sandwich board.
What sort of sandwich board?
Well, listing your crimes. Good quality bread is still enshrined in law in modern France. So in 1919, the French made a law banning anybody from baking bread between 10 p.m. and 4 a.m. And the idea was to stop mass-produced bakeries. They wanted to keep all the artisan bakeries going, but it meant the bakers couldn't work overnight to create the bread for your breakfast, and that is where the baguette becomes the bread of choice. So up until 2015, it was the law that Parisian bakers were split. Some had to take their holiday in July and some had to take their holiday in August in order to make sure that the capital always had sufficient bread.
That's so French.
I know.
The threat of a baguette crisis.
Yes, I know. The thing about baguette, you do have to have it fresh, though, don't you? It is no good the next day.
Yeah, it goes very, very hard.
Yeah.
If you've got hard bread that's gone hard, you just put it in a sink full of water and then put it in the oven. And I know this because I read Nigel Slater's book. That's what he had to do in his first job.
Right. I don't think that's going to taste very nice, though, do you?
It's not noticeable.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because it comes to the table a little bit warm. You think, oh, freshly baked.
Oh, I see.
No, recently dunked in the sink.
Really?
And then dried out in the oven.
That's good.
Wow. Bread and potatoes were rationed in Britain in the 1940s, of course, because of...
War? Oh,
Not the war. What was it?
The Atkins?
Two big crises of the 40s, the Second World War and the Atkins.
It wasn't one, it was the other.
Yeah. No, bread and vegetables were never rationed during World War II. In fact, there were subsidies from the government in order to make sure that it was all kept on the table.
Were potatoes bigger or children smaller?
It does look like carrying the heads of something, doesn't it? No, it was to do with the weather. Soon after the war, there were very heavy rains and very bad frosts, so we're talking about 1946 and 1947, and then rationing of bread and potatoes came in. Then there was a bumper crop in 1948, and then after that, all the restrictions were gone. There's some wonderful stuff that they did do about food, though. Before the war, Britain imported about half its meat and more than half its cheese and about a third of its eggs. So they did a test in 1939 to see if Britain could deal without all of that protein. 8 human guinea pigs were sent for 3 months to live in the Lake District.
Oh, lovely.
I know. But they were put on a special diet. They were given as much wholemeal bread and potatoes as they could eat, and they were to spend their time walking and cycling and mountaineering and so on. And the result was, fundamentally, a huge increase in flatulence. And an awful lot of time was spent eating, because it takes an awful lot longer to get your calories from potatoes than to get through a steak. And I don't know who measured this, but it says here, thanks to all the extra fibre, there was also 250% more voluminous faecal matter amongst the participants.
Oh. See, that's what ruins the holiday.
Yeah.
They're shitting in jars.
Yeah. Have you been on that sort of holiday?
It's a writer's retreat.
Kids were given blackcurrant syrup free during World War II. Does anybody know why?
Scurvy?
It is scurvy, exactly. The citrus trade routes were completely blocked, and so blackcurrants were grown domestically. Totally unknown in the United States. Why?
Because of the Ribena Wars of 1870.
Which was sort of not far off, really. The American logging industry had a campaign.
Is that like the Lake District logging industry?
Are you referring to the voluminous faecal matter?
I'm pretty sure I saw voluminous faecal matter at Hammersmith Odeon in 1974.
The American logging industry absolutely loathe the ribes plant because it has a disease that can threaten the white pine, and so blackcurrant was banned in the United States. In fact, the federal ban was only relaxed in 2003. It is still illegal in some states to grow blackcurrants.
So the Americans have never had Ribena?
They don't care for it.
That explains a lot.
It does, doesn't it? Did rationing help or hinder the health of the population?
I thought it helped them.
It did help, it did help. In fact, infant mortality rates halved between 1935 and 1950, and the age at which people died of natural causes that actually increased. Rationing was still going on when the then Princess Elizabeth married in 1947, and she had to use clothing ration coupons in order to pay for her dress. When they brought in clothing coupons, they weren't ready, so they repurposed margarine coupons. This cake, which was the wedding cake, was called the 10,000-mile cake. Why was it called that?
Did it travel a long way?
You are right. The ingredients came from South Africa and Australia. They were, in fact, donated. In fact, we have the recipe for the 10,000-mile.
Oh, made of wombats and koalas.
Shall we have a look at the recipe?
Yeah.
This is the recipe for a 10,000, in case anybody wants to make it at home. There we are, 60 pounds of butter, 55 pounds of sugar, 75 pounds of flour, 660 eggs, 80 oranges and lemons, 300 pounds of dried nuts and fruit, 3.5 gallons of navy rum. 110 pounds of icing sugar.
I love ice.
Or as I call that list, last Thursday.
Anybody know if there was rationing in World War One?
I think probably not, because the war only took place... It was all overseas. When it was a away fixture, that war.
Yeah, it was avoided, actually, until 1918.
If you look at the fixture list, it said France, brackets, away.
Yeah.
The German submarines created a blockade, so in 1918, and that did lead to food shortages, but the countermeasures are so wonderfully British. First of all, feeding pigeons was banned. And then they limited restaurant meals to 2 courses for lunch and 3 courses for dinner.
How many were they having before?
I don't know.
They encouraged people to eat out in the Second World War because it was a more efficient use of resources to make lots of food and then lots of people come and eat it all up rather than everyone making individual meals.
Yeah. Right, bread and potatoes were rationed after the war, not because of the Nazis, but because of the weather. Right, bread away. Why is my cellar riddled with Frenchmen?
That's for your own conscience, really, Sandy.
Oh, it's the Judy Finnegan tribute painting. A wardrobe malfunction. What let's talk about is where the man's trousers are gone at the bottom of the picture.
Yeah.
The bloke at the bottom was just on a stag night and he's been caught up in the war.
Yeah. Anybody know what the painting is?
Is this French Revolution?
Well,
No.
it's actually not. It's the July Revolution of 1830. It's
Oh,
another
they're
thing.
always having revolutions.
I don't know why the woman had to have a top off.
Because I think
sexy
you know what it is to get you interested. So it's like you learn something once you're looking at the painting, but you looked for the boobs.
It was just...
It's that. They were like, we're interested in independence, but can you sex it up? And then she just took down her sleeve.
Yes. Do you want to be free? What if I got my tits out?
I think maybe the little boy has shot her bra strap off. I think it's...
We've all done it as kids. Yeah.
Why is my cellar riddled with Frenchmen?
Is it with wine?
It is to do with wine. What do you think it's to do with?
Oh, that's as much as I've got.
Oh, you're just...
So I know you have wine in the cellar, so I'm basically hoping to build on that.
So, a riddler is the person whose job it is to rotate bottles of wine. Now, why might they do that? Why might
To
they...
stop the sediment.
Yeah, it is exactly that. So it's essential, particularly to probably the most famous French wine of all.
Champagne?
Champagne, absolutely. So it requires a secondary fermentation. So the yeast from the fermenting process is left in the bottle as the wine matures. It's what makes the bubbles appear. But nobody wants to buy a bottle of wine with bits of yeast sediment in it, so they have to be slowly removed. So what they do is, I happen to have...
Oh, hello.
So you have to get the yeast to the neck of the bottle. You have to imagine that there's all this sediment in the bottle like this, you see. And so what the Riddler does, first of all, is that they rotate each bottle 90 degrees, and then they push it slightly further into its cradle and they tip it slightly, and that makes the sediment go down into the neck. And professional riddlers can turn and tilt 40,000 to 70,000 bottles a day. They do about 3 or 4 per second. In fact, I think we can see some on a video. I mean, he just looks like a terrible date, doesn't he?
That's his actual job.
That's his actual job. Unfortunately, they are now being replaced by robots, known as...
Oh, like all of us.
I know, who can do the job much quicker.
But he might be able to do something more interesting with his life. I think some things robots
with his
should
wife.
do. Just like, do not come near me.
Oh, my God! Not the knees! Not the knees!
I think some things robots should do, and this is one of them.
There is a real skill in it. This is made of strengthened glass. Before that, it was a very explosive process. So in 1792, the canon of Reims Cathedral reported that 345 out of 594 bottles had exploded in their cellars while they were
That's
running
their
away.
version of
I know.
things. Loads of the champagne just explodes. And that's also what the mess is in here.
Yeah. The Riddler's absolutely slaughtered the whole time.
As 100 of them blew up.
Yeah. When that many explode, some of them just go in your mouth. That's just what happens.
The pressure in here is 3 times that of a car tyre. And the cork can fly out... have a guess, the speed of the cork.
I'll just get out of the way.
No, sorry, I haven't taken the...
Take your glasses off, Mark! Take your glasses off.
I'm going to guess 800 miles an hour.
8,000, 8,000.
8 million, 8 million.
Wow, OK.
Oh, is it less than that? Is it...
55 miles an hour.
Oh, that's hard.
Yeah, that's
about
so
the
slow.
speed of an average van.
So this bit around the top of the bottle is called the mousselet. It's the French word for muzzle, basically.
Oh.
Yeah.
But it sounds so much more chic.
Anyway, initially, in the first fermentation, they don't have a cork in it, they have a cap. And I'm going to open it in a rather spectacular way in a minute.
Like being in a kitchen as a student. Has that got a fag butt in it?
But my favourite way to open a champagne bottle is with...
A sword.
A sword,
Oh, my God.
indeed. So I would like to introduce you to someone who can do just that. Please welcome Julian the Magnificent. Julian, am I right? You are a member of La Confrérie de Sabrador. Is that right? Have I said it correctly?
You have indeed. I'm the Ambassador Emeritus.
Isn't that fantastic? So
Ambassador, you are spoiling it.
how did you come to be able to do this?
Well, I get a thirst around about 11 o'clock every morning.
Absolutely.
So I take out a bottle of champagne and one of my sabres and I remove the top and Bob's your uncle.
Because if you're called Julian the Magnificent, it's a shame if you just end up working in a stationery shop or...
No. But you work in the wine trade, do you not?
I do indeed.
Yes.
Working Weatherspoons.
Only in closing time with that weapon.
Now, here's
Still
the thing.
staying honest.
I was told that for health and safety reasons we cannot actually do this set. However, if you all agree, shall we just do it?
Yeah!
The reason there we were the night at the studio when Sandy Totsford lost her hand.
Can I just be really clear? You're not going to extract the cork, you're actually going to...
I shall remove the glass annulus and the cork together.
OK. Are you okay to stand this close?
No problem at all, because I'm going to be shooting it over there.
OK. All right.
He's a gentleman!
Yeah.
This is what
should be like
a gentleman warns
You'll be
you.
fine, I'll shoot over there.
Do not try this at home.
Oh, my God.
You go ahead, yeah.
Off we go.
Yeah.
Magnificent, Julian.
Look at that.
Fair play. I mean, that's...
Don't touch the top because that's sharp, obviously.
but you could drink that.
You could drink that perfectly because no glass will go inside. As you quite rightly said earlier, the pressure is about 5 times, actually, with lorry tyre.
OK.
And it will just shoot any glass away.
Right.
I mean, this is why you hire Julian the Magnificent.
And is there like an evening course you can go on to learn how to do it?
That's
Well, can I learn how to do it?
You can indeed.
OK.
It takes 3 seconds.
Let's do it. Let's give it a go.
Do you remember you were there the night, Alan Davis?
You are right-handed, Sandy.
I'm right-handed, yes.
You'll take that in your left hand.
In my left hand, yes.
With your thumb up the punt.
Thumb up the punt.
Punt, yes.
Not the first time.
There you are.
OK.
Champagne?
Oh, it's quite heavy. Yeah.
Right, now the art of sabrage.
Yeah.
You never take the blade off the glass.
No.
It's a shaving motion. You go straight up there and follow through. Don't stop.
Right.
And take the glass handles and the cork with it.
With this sword and this...
But never take the blade off the glass.
OK.
The straighter you get it, the more...
Can you hold the bottle as well?
I'll do that for you. Why not?
OK.
Off you go.
That's terrifying.
Oh, my God.
Cher Sandy, vous avez réalisé le premier geste qui vous ouvre la porte de notre confrérie. Noblement, vous avez séparé le bouchon de flacon qui besondre le merveilleux vin de champagne. Un londonien père de la vigne et de Saint-Vincent le patron de vigne. Je vous nomme sabreuse dans l'ordre de la confrérie du Sabrador.
Oh! Thank you, Julian.
When you find your cork,
Yes.
you put it in a little velvet bag.
How marvellous. I'm really actually excited.
It's really amazing.
It was exciting. It was very exciting.
It is the most fun you'll have with all your clothes on. It really is.
Julian the Magnificent!
Wow.
Sandy, it's the coolest thing anyone's ever done.
That was so cool.
That was very cool.
There's the one you cut. Look at the cleanliness of that.
I'm going to put it in this
that
little
bottle
bag.
Oh, is that a scene from Killing Eve?
It was brutal.
I'm not exaggerating. That is one of the most exciting things that's ever happened.
It looks exciting. It looks exciting.
Fast forward to 3 years' time, Toksvig outside of Tesco's with a Swiss Army knife and a bottle of Diamond Bite.
I was the Bake Off host. I was Carl Queen at telly.
Oh, dear. Champagne cellars are riddled with riddlers, although it's nothing to whine about.
Oh, now you're back down to earth with a bump.
Now, for a question about the uses of rice. Who's that? Which one of you is
No,
that? Sorry.
I'm really sorry, bud.
What? Phil?
Yeah, all right. Yeah, hello. Yeah, I'm doing... Yes. Oh, no, she's here. She's here.
The phone.
Yeah,
The phone.
it's the Danish ambassador. He wants to know where you left the key to the herring fridge.
Give me the phone.
Give
Give me the phone. That's not the Danish ambassador. Look at what it says on there. It says Piers Morgan. Listen, anyway, don't worry about your phone, because I'll put it in a box of rice and let it dry out, because that's a good idea, isn't it?
Is that a trick question?
It's up to you.
Making it now, chef.
Yeah?
Yes.
OK.
Making it now, chef.
No.
People do that because they think
The rice
it absorbs the water.
Yeah.
Yeah, so here's the thing.
You're telling us that's not really a thing.
Well, if you put a phone in a closed container with rice, less water is lost than if you just left it out in an open room.
Because I had this. I put my phone in the rice.
Yeah.
And then my wife and I could not agree on whether to seal it in or not.
Well, don't put it in the rice at all, is the thing, because it will also get little bits of rice stuck up, you know, the charging port. If you do put wet phone into rice, it's going to survive. If it does survive, it would have done anyway.
So who was the first person who said, oh, Don't worry about that. I'll pop it in some rice for you.
He was an arsehole. The only redeeming feature of the so-called rice cure is that you're usually told to turn the phone off before you put it into the rice, and that is a good idea because the heat of the phone can cause the water to warp the wet compartments. So basically, that is a good idea. Also, don't blow it with a hairdryer. Very, very bad idea.
I'm hearing a lot of don'ts. I just want a good do. Just
OK.
leave it out in a room.
Leave it out in a room. Or there are other more absorbent things. Cat litter is probably your best option. Or couscous.
I can see one disadvantage of the cat litter theory.
Yeah. If you haven't got a cat.
Oh, right.
If you haven't got a cat, why have you got cat litter?
Yeah.
Emergencies.
Yeah.
I need to go! Get the litter!
Does anybody know why rice is grown in flooded fields?
Oh, when you plant it, birds can't get the seedlings.
OK, so here's the thing. It doesn't need to be grown in water at all, but it doesn't mind.
Doesn't mind it?
It does. No, you're just going to repeat everything
It's all right
I say.
with it.
Oh, fine.
Why did they start?
It does prevent some weeds from growing because they do mind being submerged. And then also some farmers, you can see here there's some ducks in the picture, and they actually employ ducks and fish to swim around and nibble at the pests that might
How do they do PAYE? When...
What's your favourite rice? I like red rice.
Brown rice, this please.
Ambrosia. Don't put your phone in. I've had it in this tin for 4 hours and it still won't work.
That isn't your real phone, is it?
It's
It was
really...
the most bizarre sketch. I couldn't follow it at all. So the Danish ambassador rang you.
No, I said he was lying about the Danish ambassador, and it actually says on the phone that Piers Morgan...
It wasn't a real phone call.
Why was Piers Morgan ringing you then?
I didn't know about the Piers Morgan thing.
I was trying to have a go at Phil that Piers Morgan might be his friend.
There were some plot holes in it, Alan.
Yeah. I mean, as a plot, it lacked something.
If I'm not hooked from the beginning...
It gets good in episode 2.
Yeah.
Previously on QI.
Piers Morgan's the Danish ambassador.
Right, moving on. What does this clown eat? Who is that?
Is that the original Ronald?
Ronald McDonald, yeah.
It is the original Ronald McDonald. What does he eat?
Burger King.
His secret shame is that he doesn't really like McDonald's.
He's actually a vegan.
One child for every Happy Meal party.
You said Burger King. Well, inadvertently, you're going to get yourself an extra point because...
It's the best kind of point to get.
Yeah, so Ronald McDonald never ate fast food. The company were very keen to ensure that he was really just their mascot for their particular charity. They didn't want kids to get obese. But the very first Ronald McDonald was a guy called Willard Scott. That's him there. He was eventually fired for being too fat.
Oh, my God.
But he became incredibly famous in the United States. He was a weatherman on American television, and he did an ad for Burger King.
Is he being held at gunpoint in this one?
But that's awful that he got fired for being too big.
Televisions were much smaller in those days. Now we'd be fine on a massive screen.
I always thought Ronald McDonald was rather frightening.
Yeah.
I didn't like the Hamburglar. I thought was scarier than Ronald McDonald.
Yeah, and he promoted crime as well.
Exactly. My first job was in McDonald's, so he was the one I was always scared coming in.
What were you doing?
Serving burgers.
I mean, were you cooking them or you were...
Oh, you do everything at McDonald's.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
OK.
They don't have drive-throughs anymore because they finally realised that the person at the window serving's inhaling so many fumes. They're shortening their life.
Well, if you would like to shorten your life, the best place to go is the Heart Attack Grill in Las Vegas. You can eat for free if you weigh over 350 pounds or 25 stone. So just for you, that's about 3/4 of the weight of a blue whale's heart. That's quite a lot, and you are verified by being weighed at a cattle weighing station, and then you are led to your table, if you are more than 350 pounds, by your personal nurse. It's a waiter.
Wow.
And their signature quadruple bypass burger is just a shade under 10,000 calories. It's made, there it is, it's made of 4 half-pound beef patties, 20 strips of bacon, 8 slices of American cheese. I say cheese, it's American cheese. A whole tomato, half an onion, served in a bun coated with lard.
OK, I've only got one question, Sandy. Do they have a ladies' menu?
If you
Well, at least the
finish...
presentation's gorgeous.
I know. If you finish it, your nurse will deliver you to your car in a wheelchair.
And then do we know anything about faecal matter?
Oh, I imagine we bound up for quite a while after all that protein.
If you don't finish it, she will spank you in front of the other diners.
Really?
Are you sure this is a real restaurant, not a dream?
It is a real restaurant. It's a real restaurant. In 2013, the unofficial spokesman for the restaurant, who was 52, died of a heart attack. 3 other people have died on site.
What?
In the
The
restaurant.
clue is in the fact that the dish has bypass in the name.
Yes, I think that.
Yeah.
They do have a vegan option.
It's a vegan.
That's how they get their roughage.
Yeah. There must be some vitamins in a vegan.
The only vegan option on the menu is cigarettes. Ronald McDonald hasn't eaten a burger since 1970. And now for the final course. Does anyone have room for general ignorance? How many calories do you gain from eating celery?
Is it one of these things where you expend more calories eating it than you actually
say that,
gain?
don't say
There's
that.
something-
New boy!
No.
If the worst thing that happens tonight is that along. I'm all right.
Yeah, a man with a sabre tried to kill you. It's not
Exactly, yeah.
So medium stalk contains 6 calories, but there is a notion that it has negative calories. So I love this. They did a study of bearded dragons. OK, this is the University of Alabama. It turns out that these particular lizards have a rather similar diet and digestive system to humans.
Did they?
Yeah, but they measured their metabolic rate and the energy that they lost and so on, and there is a net gain of energy. Obviously, it isn't very much. Chewing and digesting are very low-energy pursuits.
The bearded dragon, of course, only started appearing about 5 years ago and are mostly baristas or work in vintage shops.
I think that one's a pencil sharpener.
That is weird, isn't it? Yeah. That is very strange. The closest we can find to a negative energy food is sugar-free gum. It has, I mean, so few calories. If you chew 100 times a minute for approximately 11 minutes, it becomes negatively calorific. But
so does life, doesn't
yes.
it?
Yeah.
You're sitting there doing that.
When it comes to the crunch, even celery has a positive number of calories. To prevent bacteria, what should your chopping board be made of?
Oh, wood.
Yes, is exactly right.
For ages, they thought the plastic ones were better.
Yep.
People thought that wood has these little grooves and bacteria would go in there and live and multiply. But then they actually found that plastic was much worse. Can I tell you why I know this?
Yes, go on.
Because an ex-boyfriend bought me a chopping board for Christmas. But part of the reason it was a good present was him explaining that actually it was good for bacteria.
Boxing Day, his head was on it.
99.9% of the bacteria that is added to a wooden chopping board has disappeared within 3 minutes of application. And on plastic ones, it's all still there. I mean, the only good thing about the plastic ones is you can put them in the dishwasher, so you can heat them up, which is good. But the most important thing, of course, is to wash them and then replace them when they get a bit knackered.
But again, eventually we're all going to die. Count.
That's a fair point, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to give you an extra point for that. Yeah. Now, which is the hottest part of a chilli?
Seeds.
No, it's not seeds. What is it?
Be careful if you've just chopped it and then you go for a wee. That's all I'm...
Oh, yeah.
So it's not seeds. Anybody know which bit it might be?
Is it the bit that holds the seeds in?
It is. It's the pith.
The pith?
It's the pith. So,
It's like you say, going for a wee.
yeah.
Is it? Is it a fruit or a vegetable?
It contains seeds, so it's a fruit.
Yeah.
But the seeds do not contain the hot compound, which is capsaicin.
Ham is a berry.
Nothing. Yeah. Rice Krispies are a legume. we just don't talk about it.
The seeds only taste hot because they've been in contact with the pith. But they are not actually. The hottest chili in the world is something called Pepper X. It was grown by an American who's rather pleasingly called Ed Curry. There's more than 3 million on the Scoville scale, so that is 1,000 times spicier than a jalapeno.
Can you die from...
You absolutely can die from
Oh,
it.
yeah.
If you ate this, you would die. They're not meant to be eaten because what would happen is that it would cause blisters in your body. and the body's defences would go into overdrive.
So much snot would come out of your nose, you'd drown.
Yeah.
I mean, you could go into anaphylactic shock, your airways could end up closing. It's not a good thing.
So why did they do it, Sandy?
Well, it's boys. Boys are going to For our final question, we're going to play a game of Beer Hunter. OK, so I have 4 cans. OK, so...
I don't like the look of this.
That's Mark's.
OK.
Yeah.
OK.
OK, so here's one for you, here's one for you. Let's have that Phil, and then you have that one. There we go, Phil.
Thank you.
OK, let's have a go at opening them. Sarah, you want to go first?
Yeah, I'm going to do some tapping first.
Do some tapping. Do you think that's going to help?
Well, this is an Essex trick.
OK, open yours,
You want to open mine?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Go.
Wow.
OK,
Fizzy.
so not that one. Alan?
Will it?
OK, not that one. Mark?
Well, the more this game goes on, the worse feeling I have about it.
No, OK.
Phyllis?
Wow. Phil? Which of those cans had the highest pressure?
Oh, they all
Well,
have the
they're
same
all
pressure.
equal, right?
Yeah. So the pressure is constant. It's about 3 atmospheres, no matter how much you shake it. An unshaken can has a small amount of gas that sort of floats on top of the liquid, but when you shake it, it all gets mixed together. And then what happens is you've got bubbles floating inside the drink, and when you open the can, they rush back to the surface.
Fizzy water's the worst one.
Yeah, it can bring it, and then brings all the liquid up.
Oh, my God! Open it, close it again! A little bit, close it!
But you
You can't even tell, you can see it. Is it going to do it? I don't know. It's doing it! It's still doing it!
All my first jobs after McDonald's were in bars, and the one thing that you'd learn from, like, barbecues was that if you've poured someone a drink and it's fizzy, put your finger in it, and you can't do that when you work in a bar.
No.
Like, people think it's really rude.
But it does work.
But
Put their finger in it.
But you were tapping the top and the bottom
Yeah.
of the can. What do you think that is going to do?
Well, it was just what we were told to do to make sure, you know, like if it'd been like in the back of the car, in the boot for a bit, if you did that for a few taps, then it wouldn't fizz.
Well, so here's the thing: tapping it top and bottom makes no difference whatsoever because the gas is already exactly where you want
doing it now.
What you need to do is tap the sides.
What?
Yes, you need to tap the sides and dislodge the bubbles so that they rise to the top.
Sandy, you're changing my life. I'm nearly 40 years old. I've just learned how to actually do this.
Yeah, so tap the sides, and then when you open the drink, the CO2 will rush out without displacing any liquid.
This is useful drinking information.
That's what we have the BBC for.
I know, right? How could you change the pressure in the can? I mean, it's clearly not down to shaking. How could you change the pressure in the can?
Heat it up.
Heat it up, yes. Any other ways?
Cool it down.
Reduce the volume. So if you crushed the can...
Tell her that whatever happens, you'll love it.
Or say something really inflammatory to it.
Yeah.
Other drinks are much nicer than you.
Yeah.
It's like you said, how old are you?
You could also increase the amount of fluid in the can.
By weeing in it.
To stop your fizz going everywhere, tap the sides, but not the top. All of it brings us to the matter of the scores. Let me tell you, in first place, our triple Michelin star is, with 3 points, Alan.
Oh!
In second place with -4, it's Sarah. Second. And in equal last place with -18, it's Phil and Mark. So it's thanks to Mark, Phil, Sarah and Alan, and I leave you with this thought by Bob Monkhouse. I read one survey that said 70% of British married couples would rather eat a good meal at a restaurant than have sex, and that's because it might disturb the people at the other tables, I expect. Thank you and good night.